God's love is infinite, full of tenderness, full of mercy, full of forgiveness, full of kindness, full of thoughtfulness. Doesn't matter color, doesn't matter race, doesn't matter nationality, doesn't matter religion. Hindu, Muslim, Jews, Buddhists, communists, Christians. Every single man, woman, child is the child of God, created in the image of God.
It is one thing to theoretically know that God exists in every person, and quite another to actually bend down to lift a person in acute distress from the streets and nurse him or her with tender motherly care. Such a blending of words and deeds is a rare occurrence in our lifetime. In Mother's case, this went on for more than 50 years, day after day. This act has moved millions, and they've been inspired by her personal example to do at least one act of compassion.
Preparation which Mother Teresa had for this work was her background in Albania. Albania was a multi-religious and ethnic society where you had people of different communities, different religions, living in peace and harmony in Albania. And so when she came to Calcutta and she saw these same people, it was no problem for her to respond to them in their diversities. It was her vision of people as a human person. And in every human person, she saw the face of Christ.
At 17 and 18, young people don't know what they're going to do. She had decided that she was going to leave her home, her beloved mother, her family. She was going to come to India. She knew in those days missionaries never went back. A girl of 18 realizes she's not going to go back again and see her mother, and she never did meet her mother again. She comes to faraway India. Where is Bengal? Where is Skopje? You know, these are two worlds that weren't meeting at that time. She didn't know any English. She certainly didn't know any Indian language. She joins the Loreto order. She learns English there, in Ireland. She comes to India. She's one of the first girls to learn Bengali. She speaks it fluently. She starts an order. She steps out alone onto the streets. No companion, no helper, no money to speak of. Can you imagine somebody like this in the streets of Calcutta in 1946? A European, yet not a European, wearing a sari that the municipal sweetresses wear, but that became her holy garment, bought for 1 rupee by Father Van Exum. He bought 3 saris, rough sandals, walking the streets in Calcutta, trying to start something, teaching herself to beg. Her whole life, as I look on it, was a miracle.
One dying young man, young boy of maybe 15, 16, dying. She put on my lap. I said, if the boys want to marry me or my father will see me in this condition, what a condition. I was so frightened. I hold it. She said, this is Jesus. This is Jesus dying. Don't hold him, don't let him fall down. Don't let him get hurt. I'm looking for a hospital.
Old woman lying in the street and she was dying. So one sister went to pick her up and the old lady said, "You can't touch me. Only if you are a Brahmin, you can touch me. I don't want to be touched by any other person of any other caste." So mother goes to her and she says, "Come, we'll take you home. We'll look after you." She says, "No. Are you a Brahmin?" So mother says, "I thought to myself." And I said, "Who is a Brahmin?" "Brahmin is somebody who serves his people." I said, "Yes, I am a Brahmin." So such was the vision of mother and a compassion that she went beyond religion.
I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Agnes Gonja Boiagiu was born on 26 August 1910 in Skopje, Macedonia. At the time, Skopje was a small town in the Kingdom of Albania, a part of the Ottoman Empire. Albania was at the crossroads of divergent cultural and religious forces. At the age of 18, moved by a desire to become a missionary, Gonja left her home in September 1928 to join the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, known as the Sisters of Loreto in Ireland. After 2 months at the Loreto Abbey in Rathfarnham, Dublin, where she learnt English, Teresa set sail for India, arriving in Calcutta on 6 January 1929. A few days later, she was sent to the Loreto Novitiate in Darjeeling. It was here, below the snow-clad mountain Kanchenjunga, that she began her life as a novice, praying, studying, training for her life as a religious sister. After taking her first vows of poverty, chastity and obedience as a sister of Loreto on May 24, 1931, Sister Teresa, as she was now called, was assigned to teach at St. Mary's School, a part of the Loreto convent in Naintali, Calcutta. She remained here for 17 happy years, first as a teacher of geography, history and catechism, and later as the principal of the school. These were years of deep spiritual formation, as her life of prayer and her closeness to God shaped her. Sister Teresa took her final vows on 24th May 1937. From then on, she was known as Mother Teresa. The sisters' lives were soon disrupted. With Japan's entry into the Second World War and the occupation of neighboring Burma, Calcutta became the operational center. Scores of buildings were requisitioned by the military and had to be evacuated. Close on the heels of the war came the Great Bengal Famine of 1942-43. Burmese rice was cut off because of the Japanese invasion. Prices rose. Peasants were forced to sell their land, and in a final bid to avoid starvation, flocked to Calcutta. Hundreds of thousands thronged the city, where they had no place to live except on the pavements. On 16th August 1946, a mass meeting was called by the Muslim League in Calcutta Maidan. Roused passions sparked bloody riots between Hindus and Muslims. For the first time, Mother Teresa was faced with the prospect of 200 starving children on her hands. With independence came partition and the largest human migration in history.
I met mother 1946, 10th of January, not an Italy convent, that whole thing taken by British Army as a military quarters. And the boarding school part where the girls will go to stay. They given a factory order, 14 Convent Road. There we were there as boarders. Few nuns of other congregation and mother alone with one old nun. Suddenly we heard World War stopped. Mother has to, we can transfer. So we went back to Loreto in Italy, one by one convent were there. And there we have, mother, what struggle mother had to get. One day we have no food. So mother said, children, go to pray, I am going to beg. So she went out and the British Army saw her. Mother, where are you going? Curfew. And my children has no food. She told her, you go and pray. And any vegetable you find, boil and cook, I will come. So she came back with the military, brought her few trucks of rice with her and brought back mother.
She did once say that when she used to teach in the Loreto convent and she used to overlook the slums, she would feel that her life was so secure and in many ways not comfortable in any grand way, but certainly secure. And she would look at the poor. And then she also saw the poor multiplying because of these very reasons. That terrible famine where 4 million people at least have died, whatever the official estimates may be. And then the great tragedy of partition. The pavements of Calcutta, there was no place to stand. And it is into that she finally, that call came to her. And she believed it always to be a real call, that what are you doing here? You have to serve me amongst the poor and be on the streets.
September, she said, now puja holiday coming, I am going for retreat. I said, I cannot cross again across the Ganges. You know, how will you do? They not allow me to come. You know, Amader Deshe ki. Then she said, you stay here, look after the orphans. So I said, I will help with the orphans, I stay here. So 9th of September, I put her in the train.
On 10 September 1946, while on the train to Darjeeling for her retreat, Mother Teresa experienced Jesus speaking to her. It was an inner command. She said to renounce Loreto, where she was very happy, to go to serve the poor in the streets. The call continued in Darjeeling throughout the retreat. The message was quite clear, she explained. It was an order. I was to leave the convent. I felt that God wanted more from me. He wanted me to be poor and to love Him in the distressing disguise of the poorest of the poor.
She said this, that when Christ was suffering, I wasn't there to serve him when he was crucified and all that. She says, so everyone who's suffering is my Christ. You can't have a better concept and vision about mankind, that every suffering man is a Christ for her. Can't replace it with anything else. And the closer she went, the enormity of it was so large that India, being such a huge country and a poor country, that she was faced with so many problems. And it was a gigantic task. And it was also becoming impossible. So she said that two things are very precious to her. A, to have compassion and do seva and look after the poorest of the poor. And B, after doing that, she has to connect with the Lord to rejuvenate herself for the next day.
Coming back, she said that Jesus wants somebody for the poor. Look at the amount of poor. And it happened. I had to go out with mother on the way we saw. You saw these children, they're picking up from dustbin. They have no education. They beg. What will happen to their future? Who will go to them?
All the senior girls told us that mother is going, we are going to give her farewell. And we sang for her one farewell song. Jodi tor dak shune keu na ashe, tobe ekla cholo re.
In August 1948, Mother Teresa exchanged her black Loreto habit for a white cotton sari with a blue border and left the Loreto convent. The Bengali Teresa started on her way. Leaving Loreto was the most difficult thing she had ever done, a greater sacrifice than leaving her family and country to enter religious life.
This was the first time that the very stratified Catholic Church at the Vatican gave permission to a single nun to remain with her vows intact, in that she remained a nun, and they gave her permission to step out on the streets of Calcutta, a permission that they had denied Mary Ward 300 years before. So this was the first time in the history of the Catholic Church that they allowed, at the level of the Vatican, a single nun to step out into the streets. There had to be something.
When Mother Teresa first entered the slum at Moti Jheel, the poverty and suffering she saw was dreadful. There was no clinic or dispensary. She cleaned and bandaged wounds and gave medicine to those she could. On the very first day, she met parents who were delighted at the prospect of having a school in their midst. And on the second day, 5 little children were waiting for her.
As soon as mother comes, ma, everybody coming around. Dirty children, and they are coming around me, and I am moving and fighting. But don't do that. This is little Jesus. Little Jesus, you have to clean them like Mary. So mother gave me some rag to wipe their face, and she made me to go and give them bath and wipe them, clean their nose and to comb their hair. And then she will teach them singing. Mother already taught them Bengali songs. She knew Bengali songs. Little children were dancing in a circle. After that, sit down on the ground. They are reading and writing means in poetry, 1, 2, 3. Then Oa Koha.
This was how they started. But within a fortnight, with the help of volunteers, Mother Teresa had opened both a school and a dispensary at Moti Jheel. She called the school Nirmal Hriday. The little school in the shadow of the Loreto convent had become a reality. She opened a second school at Tiljola. As the work increased, she needed to be closer to the Moti Jheel slum, and Mother Teresa moved into an empty room on the top floor of the Gomes's family residence in Creek Lane. But on the day she actually moved into Creek Lane, she was overcome by loneliness. For the first time, she was entirely on her own.
And I arrived to 14 Creek Lane. I'm waiting for mother. They told mother is putting sari, the children of that house, and she is gone to the poor people to work. And Agnes also, Subhashini joined, she also gone to school to study because she was finishing her study. So I waited and waited. About 1 o'clock, mother is coming alone with one lady at the corner of the Creek Lane. Not the same person, but I cannot explain to you that elegant European dress and a nun in that simple poor sari of the people who clean the street, without shoes, sandal, and so tired, with a rosary in her hand, praying and bag. And she climbed on the 3rd floor of the Creek Lane.
Three weeks after Mother Teresa moved into Creek Lane, she was joined by her first postulant, Subhashini Das, the future Sister Agnes. A short while later, another former student from St. Mary's, Magdalena Polton, appeared outside the door. She became the second postulant and took the name of Sister Gertrude.
It was the 3 of us. Then again fourth one comes on May. Then comes somebody, September comes one. So that year only 4 of us and mother, 5 of us. Next year comes one by one, you saw the photo.
Then we asked mother, where do you live? She told us, you come and see. And she gave us address, 14 number Creek Lane. When I saw some girls of St. Mary's in Delhi, they joined. Then I was thinking, I also will join. And then that time already we are 24 of us. From there, mother used to spread us where to go, 2 by 2.
Mother taught her sisters to remain cheerful. Peals of laughter filled their homes. God loves a cheerful giver, she used to say. Her work was serious, but joyfulness was an important prerequisite for entry into her mission. The young women dressed in distinctive white saris with blue bands were soon a familiar sight in the poor areas they served. Missionaries of charity must go out onto the streets. You have seen, she said, how difficult it is for them to come to us. We must go to them. We had a lot to learn from the poor, she said. The poor give us much more than we give them. They are such strong people, living day to day with no food, and they never curse, never complain. We don't have to give them pity or sympathy. We have so much to learn from them. It is not how much we do, but how much love we put in the giving. Nirmal Hriday, the home of the pure heart, is a free hospice for the sick, destitute and the dying in Kalighat. While walking around Calcutta, mother and sisters came across scores of malnourished people living on the streets. Tuberculosis was rife, and overcrowded hospitals could do little for them in their advanced stage of illness. There was nowhere to take them, so they died on the street.
The first woman that I saw, I picked up from the street. She had been half-eaten by the rats, and I took her myself to the hospital. And as they could not do anything, they accepted her because I refused to move from there until they took her in. From there, I went to the municipality and I asked them just to give me a place where I could bring these people, because on the same day, I found more people dying in the street.
Undeterred, Mother Teresa went to the Calcutta municipality for help, and she was given use of one of the shelters for pilgrims adjoining the Kali temple. On 22nd August 1952, 2 years after she established the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa opened the first home for the dying in Kalighat and named it Nirmal Hriday. People who were brought here received medical attention, and here they could die with dignity and in peace, according to the rituals of their faith.
And as she worked over there, slowly she managed to obtain the permission to start her Nirmal Hriday, which was, I would say, a very special gift of God. Somehow the humanity of people, both in the Kali temple and humanity of people in the distressing situation in which they found themselves in what came to be known as Nirmal Hriday, began to touch the hearts of all.
So only thing only came to know about Mother 52 when she went to Kalighat to open. I went to clean with Mother and all. Then I saw a newspaper cutting about this is about the Desmond Doyle. He put the first one who put Mother in the, this is in Kali temple, no? That is the Nirmal Hriday she opened. So this was the newspaper by Desmond Doyle.
Over the next 2 years, almost 30 young women joined the order. They now needed a larger place. The church advanced Mother Teresa an interest-free loan to purchase a property, and in February 1953, the Missionaries of Charity Sisters moved into 54A Lower Circular Road. It became the headquarters of the Missionaries of Charity and was henceforth called Mother House. In the silence of the heart, God speaks. If you face God in prayer and silence, God will speak to you. Then you will know you are nothing. It is only when you realize your nothingness, your emptiness, that God can fill you with Himself. The Shishu Bhavans, or children's homes, established all over India, have become the symbol of Mother Teresa's work. They provide care to the orphaned and sick children. Every Shishu Bhavan is colorful, full of light and cheerful children at play. Mother Teresa has certainly been an important influence in breaking the prejudices surrounding adoption that exist in India. But although adoption remains an important activity of these centers, many of them provide continuous care and a permanent home for hundreds of mentally retarded and severely handicapped children. I cannot give the love, a real mother can give, but I have never refused a child. Never. Not one. Each child is precious. Each child is created by God. And the work never stops as more institutions were set up. The inmates at Premdan suffer mostly from malnutrition, tuberculosis, various kinds of physical handicaps, and mental problems. A doctor visits here regularly. Like all Mother Teresa's centers, Premdan is clean and enveloped with an air of calm. Shantidan is a home for mentally and physically disabled girls and young women. These girls are divided into groups based on their abilities. Flowers, birds, angels, butterflies, stars, and rainbows. Dayadan is an orphanage for handicapped adolescent males. All of them are mentally handicapped, and many have physical handicaps as well. The Gandhiji Prem Nivas Leprosy Center, which stretches across a narrow 10-kilometer strip along the Titagore-Khorda railway line, is a testimony to Mother Teresa's determination. She was drawn to the plight of the leprosy afflicted because of the social stigma attached to leprosy. Although the disease is easily treated, battling the stigma was an uphill task. Prem Nivas is a monument of courage and was one of the first of 16 centers in India. Prem Nivas began as a small mobile clinic under a tree in the midst of a crime-ridden community of lepers. Ostracized to the very edge of town near a snake-infested swamp. There was no drainage, no drinking water, no sewage, no electricity, not even a proper roof over their heads. The Titagore municipality donated the land, and the rehabilitation center bears a small sign acknowledging the efforts of the patients in the construction of the building. Mother Teresa handed over this arduous task to the missionaries of Charity Brothers. Here, leprosy patients weave the white saris with blue borders worn by the sisters of the missionaries of charity. They also weave the sheets, bedspreads and cloth used in various centers. There is a center making artificial limbs and crutches and a tailoring section where rubber and plastic sheets are stitched, all for in-house use. Workers are paid a daily wage and also provided with food, clothing, housing and medical care.
There was a knock on my door and there was Mother Teresa. So I said, Mother, why didn't you tell me? I would have come there. No. We have a problem and I wanted to discuss it with the governor. He was busy for 5 minutes. I said, Mother, please come in. Will you have a cup of tea? No, we don't have anything outside our ashram. Not from the poor, not from the rich. Mother, LG will be free in a few minutes. What can we do? There is a problem, she said, of the leprosy patients in Delhi. If I can get some land, then they don't have to beg and humiliate themselves. I can look after them. They need not be on the streets of Delhi. I'll set up a hospital, I'll set up dormitories. Let me keep them in dignity. I want land. Mother, how much land are you thinking of? 5 acres? About 5 minutes later, the governor was free. We went in. Mother, will you have a cup of tea? Same answer. What brought you? So then she told him with her full heart about the problems of the leprosy afflicted in India. How they are stigmatized, how they are humiliated. People will reach out to other handicapped people, but people will not reach out to the leprosy affected, even if they may be cured of leprosy. So she spoke very movingly, and the governor was also moved, and we could all see that he was moved. And then he asked her, "Mother, how much land do you want?" Then she looked at me with a smile, and she looked at the governor and said, 10 acres. He gave her 11 acres, you know. So I could see then that Mother Teresa was very much, she understood her environment very closely. She could see that everyone was moved. In any case, she was asking nothing for herself. All her life, she only asked for the poor whom she served, or maybe something for her sisters. It was never personal.
While her internal suffering mounted, her mission among the poor flourished. The expansion was rapid. In the first 25 years of their existence, the missionaries of charity had 704 sisters in 87 foundations, caring for thousands of the poorest of the poor, those who found themselves on the margins of society. At the time of her death, there were 3,842 MC sisters in 594 foundations and 120 countries.
And look at the way Indians responded to her. She never discriminated. People saw and recognized goodness. When she started her first school, somebody brought a chair, somebody brought a table, somebody brought a blackboard after a few days. Some little children, because there were no schools in those days, they sat on the mud in front of her. Her little school became a reality. Then she would beg for medicines from the chemist, opened a small dispensary there, little school there, little school there. She learned she could multitask. What an administrator!
There is hardly any humanitarian award or recognition that has not been conferred upon her. From the Bharat Ratna to the Nobel Peace Prize, she has received them all.
I am grateful and I am very happy to receive it in the name of the hungry, of the naked, of the homeless, of the cripples, of the blind, of the lepers, of all those people who feel unwanted, unloved, uncared, throwaway of the society, people who have become a burden to the society and are shunned by everybody. In their name, I accept the award.
Mother Teresa stated that earthly rewards were important only if they helped her help the world's needy. When she received the Nobel Peace Prize, she was asked, "What can we do to promote world peace?" She answered, "Go home and love your family." On 5th September 1997, a few days after her 87th birthday, Mother Teresa finally went home.
Jesus said, "I was hungry and you gave me to eat." Hungry not only for bread, hungry for love, for the word of God. I was naked and you clothed me, not only with a piece of cloth. Nakedness is that loss of that beautiful human dignity of the child of God, the dignity that have been created to love and to be loved. The day she died, her head ultimately, they were trying all the oxygen, no? I had oxygen cylinder and make artificial pacemaker. Electricity went off, but anyhow I went on holding her head in my hand. I said, "Can we go home?" "We are in your home, look at your picture in your room." There. I forgot. And she kissed the picture 3 times, I forgot. Then again and again she was saying, "Naturally she became."
And her eyes went up 3 times. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
With her head resting in Sister Gertrude's hands, she slowly turned to face the picture of Jesus that hung in her room. Now that she had completed life's journey, one in which she had lived so closely with her Lord, her last words were for Him alone.